Happy New Year, everyone! Welcome to another episode of AniMel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Mel, the host of this channel. And if you haven't been here before, make sure you subscribe before watching the rest of this video. And if you end up liking it, make sure you like, comment, or share with somebody else so I know to continue making videos like this. We are back with a seasonal anime Rex episode, or rather, the seasonal anime that I will be watching this winter. This is not inclusive of any fall anime that are continuing on to winter, just so you know, because there are some anime that will be continuing into the wintertime from fall, like ReZero, I believe Shangri-La as well, and a few others. And like the rest of 2025, winter 2025 is absolutely stacked. It's stacked with fantasy, it's stacked with a lot of romance, some slice of life. There's a little bit of violence in the winter this year, but overall we've got some exciting heavy hitters that are coming out. Many of you have been waiting on the announcement of Season 2 for this anime, and we're finally getting it. It's Season 2 of Solo Leveling. Now, I'd like to say that I know what's going to be happening in Season 2, but as I learned from Season 1, A1 Pictures has duly added a lot of new content that's not originally in the manhwa. But what I will say, based on the trailers that we got, because I have not seen the movie, so for those of you who have seen the movie, you know more than I do. I'm going based off what I've read in the manhwa, the trailers that I've seen, as well as what was foreshadowed in Season 1. At the end of Season 1, they foreshadowed the Jeju Island arc. But from what I can tell from the trailers, it doesn't seem like we'll be getting that quite yet. We may get additional hints and foreshadowings as to Jeju Island's arc, as that arc is one of the biggest arcs in the manhwa. However, what we definitely can anticipate is the Red Gate arc, which will show all its viewers and other people that Sung Jin-woo has extremely leveled up from Season 1 till now. And they're teasing that Jin-woo has found a way to possibly cure his mom's eternal slumber illness. And the last thing that's noted from the trailers is that Jin-woo may be making his announcement to the world that he can kind of level up. I don't think he's going to tell people per se that he can level up, because it's kind of a unique feature and who knows who may have it in the story of Solo Leveling. But the smart people in the room are going to realize that he must have some capability of leveling up, or he had a reawakening to go from an E rank hunter to whatever level he is at the point of Season 2, but we will only find out after he gets measured. Here are my hopes. I hope that there will be a lot more action in Season 2 versus Season 1, because I understand they kind of had to build the story of Jin-woo, and we had to see him struggle until a point that he's strong enough to now face off potentially in A rank and S rank dungeons. I think we can continue to expect A1 Pictures adding more original scenes that are not seen or not in the manhwa at all. And from the point that everyone finds out Sung Jin-woo's new rank, the trajectory of the story will change completely. Anime is kind of all over the place this season. You can find it on Crunchyroll, you can find it on Amazon Prime, you can find it on Disney Plus or Hulu, depending on your region, or Netflix. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to do a lot of subscribing this season. This brand new anime that's coming out on Hulu or Disney Plus this season is called Medalist. Has there been a surge in anime that are related to sports that are getting adapted? Because I'm really enjoying it. This anime follows a young girl, Yuesutsuka Inori, who dreams of being an Olympic ice skater. But unfortunately, her mom doesn't necessarily support her in participating in the sport out of fear of her getting severely injured. And while Inori has demonstrated great potential and talent, at the age of 11, she seems to be a little bit old to be training competitively at her age, as others start a lot earlier. And unfortunately, all of the training that Inori has had so far is self-taught. However, she gets discovered by a former ice skater, Tsukasa, who comes to, I want to say Tokyo, he's coming from Yokohama, to get a job as an ice skating coach. It seems like that job falls through, but in discovering Inori, he wants to be her coach and help her achieve her dreams in winning a gold Olympic medal, hence the title Medalist. Now here are my thoughts, hopes, and concerns. Some concerns I have, especially after the adaptation of Blue Lock, is that sometimes these really dynamic, high action scenes when it comes to sports don't necessarily get captured well in animation, or CGI is overused. From the trailers, it doesn't look like there's a lot of CGI usage. There is some, but it's kind of too soon to tell. I'm waiting to see it when it's fully released. As I mentioned earlier, what I do love seeing is more stories being adapted into anime that are involving sports. And I love a good underdog story where someone has some innate talent or some very raw talent. They've been training themselves, but they are much more behind compared to the rest of their peers in the competitive sport. What I can see potentially happening with this story is that either A, Tsukasa, Inori's coach, who kind of gave up his dreams on being this professional ice skater, kind of projecting some of his dreams onto Inori, which could create a lot of pressure for her. And or B, Inori having to hide the fact that she's training competitively for ice skating from her mother, and her potentially finding out, and her having to convince her mom through excessive training that she can do it and that it's part of the sport of getting hurt, but she's willing to do the work to recover or whatever the case may be. So I think all of the training that she does may come into play because it's gonna have to be good enough to convince her mom to let her to compete. This next one is an original anime, so don't go looking for a manga. Zenshu is a new original anime that's being animated by MAPPA. And what I find absolutely ironic is the fact that the story revolves around an animator that gets huge, makes their director debut, is extremely successful, but while directing a new project, Natsuko, our main character, decides to redo a lot of the work that her animators have already done because she wants it done in a completely different fashion. But her animators doesn't seem to understand her vision. Now here's the problem. She ends up overworking herself to the point that it leads to her end. But she doesn't just die. She gets reborn, reincarnated into one of her favorite childhood anime that inspired her to become an animator in the first place. Knowing what we know about MAPPA, it's extremely ironic to see a story like this. And I kind of want to laugh, but it's also kind of not funny. Anyway, what happens is that when Natsuko gets reincarnated into this world, she knows how the story will end, and she knows it will end miserably. And while exploring this world that she's in, she discovers that she has the ability to affect the story by writing or drawing new things to implement into the story. And in hopes of saving some of her favorite characters that inspired her to become an animator, she goes back to work. I find it really interesting that you can't see Natsuko's face completely hidden. And I know generally a lot of people in the manga and anime space, they don't like their faces shown. They tend to be very private people. So I find it very interesting that Natsuko is depicted in this way. I will say that the animation looks absolutely stunning, which is what MAPPA is known for. I honestly don't know what to expect, especially since it's an original. But what I can't understand is that Natsuko, who died from overworking, goes back to overworking herself to save the characters in her favorite story. How does this end? I guess we'll only find out by watching Zenshu. I Have a Crush at Work, or Can You Keep a Secret? They have two different titles for some reason. Is a workplace romance that's coming out this winter. Unfortunately, I don't know where it's airing. I have been scouring the internet as to where it will be streaming. So if you find out before me, let me know. If I find out before you, I will post it somewhere online. But this story is really about two coworkers who come to find affection in each other in the workplace. They have the hots for each other. They can't keep their hands off of each other, and they can't seem to do so at work as well, but they're trying to hide their relationship from their coworkers. I don't know if it's taboo to have romantic relationships in the workplace, or they just don't want their coworkers to find out in fear that it will change their work dynamic. And the only way that I can see this potentially ending or the story going is that someone in HR is going to find out, or some close coworkers in relation to the main characters end up finding out and having to keep their secret. But what I can't fathom is that if you're trying to keep a secret, why can't you just keep your hands to yourself until you get home or just go to somebody else's place? Why do it at work? Another romance anime making its return is My Happy Marriage with its season 2. For those of you who may have missed it, there was an OVA that actually dropped in December of 2024, so make sure you watch that before you watch season 2. Picking up from season 1, where we find out that Mio does indeed have supernatural abilities, and she is one of the only people to have this supernatural ability, which is the Dream Sight. The Dream Sight allows the user of this ability to enter dreams of others and bend them to their will. We see that Mio continues to meet other members of Kyoka's family, notably her new new mother-in-law, who is really giving off the Saimori family vibes, where she was bullied, where she was abused, and I'm really hoping we don't get too much of that within season 2 and the interactions between Mio and her mother-in-law. But unfortunately, and for the story, as we know, Kyoka is kind of distant from his family aside from his sister. The mother-in-law is definitely going to be a huge obstacle and probably one of the main plot points for season 2. And what we also see is family members from the Usaba family, which is where the dream sight ability derives from, making themselves known and present to Mio and Kyoka. This family is definitely giving kidnap Mio vibes, because people from the Usaba family are not supposed to marry outside, I guess, of their clan or of their family, let's say that, to keep the abilities contained. And if she doesn't get kidnapped, then there's the potential that they're going to try to coerce her to come back home with them for some reason or another, or perhaps to protect Kyoka. But I don't think that's a plot point that will be fully introduced in this season, but possibly foreshadowed and leading to in seasons to come. But more importantly, I want to see more Kyoka and Mio romantic moments, because this is what I'm watching this anime for. Where's the romance? Where's the kisses? Where's the affection? It's just one romance anime after another. Honey Lemon Soda is a brand new romance anime that is coming out this winter. Our main female lead, Ishimori Yuka, is a very insecure, unconfident high school girl that meets Miura Kai, who is her complete opposite. And every time she sees this guy, since the first moment she bumped into him randomly while in middle school, to seeing him again in high school, she is reminded of Honey Lemon Soda, hence the title of this anime. And it actually appears that he's almost always carrying around Honey Lemon Soda. Does anyone know what that tastes like? I'm kind of curious now. In some of the earlier teasers for Honey Lemon Soda, Kai, our male lead, kind of seems a little bit rude, a little bit abrasive when interacting with Uka. But as it turns out, he ends up giving her the strength and reassurance to be more confident in herself. And these interactions with Kai that Uka has ends up opening up these new avenues for relationships and friendships at school. So this ends up being a coming of age story where Uka's interaction with Kai will end up changing her life forever. But here's what I also hope for. Just in the way that Kai is impacting Uka's life, I hope to see the reverse. Because Kai can't be this overly confident, super perfect character, or else the story would just be generic. But the animation is really cute. An anime coming to its end soon is Dr. Stone. Season 4 of Dr. Stone, which is being called Science Future, is being broken up into parts, with its first core or part airing this winter. It seems like our next stop is the moon, and the main antagonist seems to be light years ahead in technology in comparison to the Science Kingdom. It's actually absolutely insane. I kind of freaked out while watching the trailer because I was like, why the f are there guns now? How did we get here so quickly? But it turns out Y-Man and his crew just had probably a lot more time to build, considering they're the ones who created the whole Stone Age. And while Senku has faced numerous challenges in seasons 1 through 3, I think this is probably his biggest challenge yet, because the antagonist is the main antagonist for the final part, and Senku quite possibly just doesn't have the time to build fast enough to catch up to where Y-Man and crew is. Here are my thoughts, my hopes, and my concerns. My concerns are this may turn into another Attack on Titan 2.0, where we get a lot of parts of season 4 in the attempt to complete Dr. Stone. My thoughts on the whole situation is that since this is Senku's largest challenge yet, and largest challenge by a huge margin, there's going to have to be some considerable loss considering the advantage the enemy has over him in the Science Kingdom. And my hopes for the end of this part 1 of this season is that we either get the plans to build the spaceship, since the end goal is to go to the moon and find Y-Man, or we get the completion of the spaceship and they are selecting the crew that will go to space because everyone cannot go. But I do hope that we can wrap up Dr. Stone in 2 parts, 3 at the max, please. Romance anime makes its return on this list with Anyway, I'm Falling in Love with You. No, I'm not falling in love with you, but that's the name of this anime. We've got 5 main characters, with our main and sole female lead, Mizuho, and her 4 best friends. They have been friends for the longest time, since childhood. But unfortunately, as we grow older, some childhood friendships just can't and don't stay the same. But the reason that this ends up happening to Mizuho and her friends is that one of her childhood friends decides to confess his feelings to her because he wants to take his relationship from platonic to romantic. However, I don't think that he's the only one that has feelings for her. There could possibly be more than one in the friend group that wants to be romantically involved with Mizuho. So first things first, we don't even know who the final guy will be. This story evidently is, I guess, a reverse harem of sorts. I do like the mystery as to who will be Mizuho's official boyfriend, because sometimes when you know who the male and the female lead is already for a romantic story, it doesn't leave much wondering in the brain. You kind of figure out how things are gonna go down at some point after 2 or 3 episodes. But with this story, it keeps things extremely mysterious, so when the male lead, official male lead, makes himself known, we will never know who he truly is until probably the end. And honestly, who knows? Maybe she'll end up dating more than one of the guys in her friend group, which will throw off the dynamic much more and will throw off the viewers even more. I love chaos. But the one thing that I do like about this story is that they are addressing the whole aspect of how when people are in a friend group and when people in said friend group decides to build romantic relationships, that evidently will change the friend group. It will change everyone's dynamics whether you like it or not. And there's no way really to retain friend groups in their original state as people continue to evolve in life and they continue to get older and they continue to grow. So I'm very curious as to how Anyway I'm Falling in Love with You approaches that. So here's a little break and reprieve for all the people who don't watch romance anime that's watching this video right now. Übel Blatt is full of violence. Like, so much violence! And hopefully you have Amazon Prime so you can watch this one. Quinzel, formerly known as Asherit, and I may not be pronouncing these names correctly, so I'm sorry, is our main character for Übel Blatt. He was a hero from 20 years prior to the start of the main story that was betrayed and killed by some of his party members. During the main story, he now has a completely different appearance. He has the appearance of half human, half elf, and he now looks like a young boy. And even though he was thought to be killed 20 years prior, he is still alive with a completely different appearance and now seeks revenge on those who betrayed him. And the way that it goes is that 20 years prior to the story, when he was Asherit, there was 14 members, including himself, that were united by the emperor of the kingdom that he was from to fight another evil nation. On their quest, 3 out of the 14 died, and 7 out of the remaining 11 decided to leave, evidently betraying the party because they didn't want to risk dying themselves. So with Asherit and only 3 other members left in the party, they go to fight the evil nation and empire. They end up winning for these 7 traitors to show up at the end after the job is completely done and killing them and taking the victory for themselves. Now they are all known as the 7 heroes of their nation. Meanwhile, the ones that actually fought and defeated the evil nation were deemed traitors of the country, or traitors of the nation that they were from, and were killed by the actual traitors. So in his quest for vengeance, now as Quinzel, we can expect lots and lots of blood, lots and lots of violence. This seems to be in a fantasy world of sorts. What I don't think will happen is the death of one of these 7 false named heroes, because while Quinzel seems very skilled with a sword and in fighting, and seems extremely talented and gifted, I think it's going to be really hard now that these 7 heroes have had 20 years to get stronger. We don't know what Quinzel has been doing in that time between his supposed death and now, where he has a different appearance. I do hope that we get to find out in season 1 why his appearance has changed and how he survived, if he did survive and he wasn't like reborn or reincarnated. But what would be nice is Quinzel maybe dealing heavy damage to one of the 7 false heroes in the first season, just to see any potential progress he has made up until the end of the season. And if I'm being overly optimistic, maybe he'll kill at least 1, but I don't expect him to kill more than 1, because judging by the trailer, they seem to be fairly powerful. One of my favorite anime obsessions is returning. Apothecary Diaries is here to grace us with 24 episodes. So I'm talking about 12 episodes in the winter and 12 episodes in the spring. How blessed are we? For those of you who don't know what Apothecary Diaries is about, please go back into the catalog of videos that I have, as I did a full-length review, anime only related, on Apothecary Diaries. But since season 1 ended in a bit of a cliffhanger, I expect the end of season 1 to be affecting the events of season 2. If you remember, at the end of season 1, we learned that there's this whole conspiracy that's been going on in the second half of season 1, and one of the persons involved, Suire, ends up faking her death and getting away with it. We don't know where she's gone, but we know she's walked away away and probably is way far out of the palace by now. But I think she'll probably have to make her return because there is a larger scheme at hand that she's involved in and probably multiple others are involved in, and that conspiracy has not ended judging by the trailer for season 2. What we can suspect is that the conspiracy is related to the royal family and Jinchi specifically because we think that he's of royal blood since he looks related to one of the former consorts, Ado, who's no longer part of the palace. And seeing as Jinchi is still there, they're not done with the job yet. It looks like we're getting many new characters involved in season 2, and without a doubt some of them have to be part of this larger conspiracy that's going on at the palace. I think we can expect a similar formula to season 1 where there are a bunch of smaller mysteries, but sometimes some of these smaller mysteries will build back up into a larger mystery, aka the conspiracy that we get introduced to in season 1. And my question for this season and for future seasons potentially, is there a larger plan that is in relation to killing Jinchi for his potential relation to the royal family? Or was Jinchi just a pawn to potentially threaten the emperor? And more importantly, seeing as Mao Mao is a little bit more friendly with Jinchi in season 2 trailers, I wonder if that means we'll be getting more intimate moments between Jinchi and Mao Mao. Does this mean Jinchi actually has a shot at being with her? Because we all know he is into her. I won't spend too much time on this one as again, there's another video out there that I've created in my catalog on Sakamoto Days, but this is one I've been much looking forward to. Sakamoto Days is going to be an absolute riot as a retired assassin must come out of retirement because there is a bounty placed on his head. The action in the anime is absolutely visually unparalleled, like the illustrations are masterful, and I really do hope that the anime can capture that in some sense. And what I will say is that season 1, or part 1 of season 1, will potentially be a little bit slow just like the manga because it takes about 30 chapters for them to get to the main plot. So I just want to warn you now. And I actually don't think we'll get to the main plot until the summer when part 2 or season 2, whatever they decide to market it as, gets released. But what can you expect? You can expect a lot of comedy. A larger man who is still extremely agile despite being out of the assassination game for a very long time, and can use about any everyday object as a weapon, so bounty hunters beware. And the supporting and side characters are just as quirky in different ways. We've got a telepath, a person who fights better when they're drunk, and someone whose primary assassination weapon is a saw blade. Like, what? And for those of you who are reading the manga, this anime is going to be so hard-boiled. Now here's the one insight that I really want to mention. Based on the trailers, especially the latest trailers that came out at Jump Festa, it looks like our main antagonist from the story will be making their appearance, at least in this first part, considering that we have a voice actor already attached to them, and they were shown in the latest trailer. And while it will take a very long time for people to really learn X or Slur's backstory and who he is and what he represents, I think just his appearance will excite people to a whole new level in this first part. Toilet-bound Hanako-Kun returns with its season 2. And I've got to say that while it initially looks very cute, like the characters are downright adorable, it's kind of eerie and creepy sometimes. And from a personal Threads friend, I heard that the manga is even eerier, so I'm thinking about picking that up next. But with the return of Hanako-Kun in season 2, it seems like our kind of friendly ghost, which is the 7th wonder of the school that he's trapped in, continues to work with our main character Yashiro, who's a middle school human person who's kind of like bounded or attached to Hanako-Kun, and resolving a lot of the rumors that are being created by the other 7 wonders. So in season 1, if you haven't watched it, they resolved some of the rumors that were attached to about 2 or 3 7 wonders, and it's important to note that these rumors do affect how these 7 wonders act. If the rumors are violent, if they're scary, if they're nasty, then these wonders will act in that same fashion. And Hanako describes that some of these ghosts, some of these wonders, never started off this way. So they work together to correct them, to reform them to their original state. But based on the trailers, it seems like there will be one singular focus on one of the wonders, which is the first one, known as the 3 clock keepers. These 3 clock keepers each have an ability in relation to time. The ability to rewind time, the ability to stop time, and the ability to fast forward time. And we get a warning that the one that fast forwards time you should not ever let touch you. It seems like this one is wreaking havoc because a lot of the students have turned into geriatric adults. Now, here are my hopes for season 2. The reason that I am enjoying the story of Toilet Bound Hanako-Kun so much is that Hanako definitely has like a lot of mystery to him. We don't know how he died, we don't know how he became the seventh wonder of the school, and we don't know how his brother's death is also related to him and his death, because he seems to have this intense fear in relation to his twin brother. Since they've presented the main wonder for this season, I hope, and this wonder is in relation to time, my thoughts are that Yashiro gets a chance to go back in time and learn about Hanako-kun's path, because I'm dying to know at this point. And it's one of the main drivers for me wanting to read the manga. Did you all notice that there was substantially less anime on this list than there were last season? Yeah, we did that on purpose. Not that I don't want to check out more anime, I just want to give myself back a little bit more time. I think 12 anime is enough because we spent almost all of fall watching like 18 to 20 anime. I don't think that's sustainable. But I do hope that you got to learn about a new anime while watching this video. Let me know in the comments below what you will be watching this winter and what you are most looking forward to. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Like, comment, and share with a friend so I know to keep creating videos like this. Again, I hope you all have a wonderful, happy new year. I hope you have a successful and prosperous 2025, and I will catch you all on the next one. I'm Mel, the host of Annie Melt, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye!